Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Hello 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, we're live. So hello, my name is Brian Horgan, and I'm going to do some more animation today with Deadpool. This is a shot I went through briefly the other day. I've got Deadpool walking in, and he's basically, the reference I'm using is, I have it over here, I have it synced up to my with Keyframe Pro, which is a great player for animation in particular. And I've animated the camera. I originally started off with just animating him in a perspective view. I didn't really worry about the camera, and then as I went on, I started blocking out the camera to kind of match what it's doing. I have it kind of pushing in a little bit more than, but still moving there, which I feel like, yeah, it is. You can see it in the shot. It's still moving in this. I might actually keep that. I might actually lock it down, maybe, or somewhere around here, just so this last section I can make it feel a little bit smoother. But what I want to do today, my initial plan, is to kind of go through the blocking a little bit and just kind of cleaning some stuff up. I actually put the reference away for a little while and just kind of just fix some of the body mechanics, make it feel a little bit cleaner in a perspective view. But you'll probably notice that most of this looks okay in this view, in the camera view, but if I actually hide the reference and go into perspective view, it's not too bad up to about here, but here it starts feeling a little bit off balance. Not terribly. I've actually done a little bit of adjustment on it after I noticed that, but yeah, it's feeling a little bit wonky there in 3D space, and that's really the kind of thing I wouldn't get from the reference. You know, as I say, it looks okay in the camera view, pretty much, and that's the most important one, really. You know, is to get that one looking right. But if you're working in games particularly, then it's always a concern about making stuff look good from all angles, because the player can control the camera essentially, so they're going to be seeing it from all angles. And even in something like this, where, you know, it's not for a game, it's just I'm just gonna render this as a video from this camera, I still want it to sort of feel decent in 3D space, because it's just gonna help it feel better. It's a you know, it mightn't seem like it, but you'll actually, you know, you won't see it obviously, but you'll kind of feel it, that he's more balanced and stuff like that. So I'm going to go into a perspective view and do a little bit of cleanup on some of these poses. And a great way to kind of get a sense of this, obviously it's not in the reference, but a great way to do it is to do things like life drawing classes. I'm not great at drawing at all, but I do occasionally go to life drawing, just to kind of study how people stand and sit and hold themselves. It's a really good way of just training your eye a little bit better. You can always kind of tell when somebody's you know, doesn't have a sense of how people actually move or hold themselves. It really comes out in their animation. And you can kind of tell that they never draw, or they never really study. That's a lot of animation, really, is observing things. So when I want to make a big change like this, I want to basically bring his torso back so it's a little bit more over his feet. I find the best way to do that, rather than going in and adjusting each pose individually, is just using the graph editor. So I'm going to grab the Translate Z curve, and I can see that it's pretty much like, he's not too bad here. Like, I feel like that pose is reasonably balanced. You know, his head is a little bit over the front here, but his butt is back here over his legs. So I can actually maybe even pull that back a little bit more, but I might do that. So I'm going to grab all of these keys, like from there onwards, and just drag them back a little bit, and that'll pull him back a bit in Z space. And then when he comes up here, not too bad there, but he's kind of comes forward maybe a little bit too much. Actually, that's not too bad there, but here, it's as he leans forward, that's kind of what's doing it. It's kind of, as his torso is leaning forward, he's kind of shoving his his weight, you know, if I was to draw a plumb line down there, it would be going straight down here, you know, past his feet. It's okay to be unbalanced for a little bit, but not for this long. So I'm going to maybe take all of these curves, all of these keys rather, and just pull them back just a little bit. And then this easing, I might want to just kind of get that to where it was. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of almost just a straight in between really there. That's not too bad. The other thing I'm feeling is at his chest now, when I look at it from the side, you know, there's a nice looseness to it up here. You can feel it kind of separated from his hips a little bit. Whereas once he gets up to this point of the animation, it feels like everything's moving in one unit. So I'm going to go to his chest. You'll notice I have this little GUI here, which is my sort of little toolbox. A lot of different tools and stuff for different tools I use. But the one I probably use the most is this one, which is just save incremental. So whatever I have the name of the file set to, it just adds the next number onto it. And I do that a lot. I save my files like crazy, to be quite honest, because it does crash quite a bit. Like, and doing you know, streaming like this, I have no idea if that's going to make it more unstable, which, you know, it's quite likely. So I might look at the rotate X as well on this before I go to the chest. Just on this this yellow controller here is kind of the kind of root of the body, so I might do a little bit. Rotate X is the forward back, so I might adjust that just a little bit. It's kind of like this last section here. I feel like this is where he's getting maybe a little bit too far forward. So I'm just going to pull all those back. Yeah, that's it better. Now I'll go back to the camera view. You'll notice I'm jumping back and forth between cameras. That's a little hotkey I have set up. It just finds all the perspective cameras in the view. Every time I hit it, it toggles into a different one. I've also got, you might notice here as well, a mirrored shot cam. That's something I often do as well, is I mirror the whole camera. So that allows me to kind of see, you know, there's the normal camera view, and then if I go back to it, it's a mirrored version. You can even animate in this as well. And sometimes I'll do that for a while just to kind of get my eye fresh, because one problem with working on your own is you know, you get very it's amazing how your eye kind of just makes you feel like something looks okay, and then you come back to it after a break and go, oh god, you know, what was I doing with that pose? It looks really awkward. And doing things like this, kind of just flipping it back and forward every now and then, can kind of help you. Sometimes I'll even have that other camera on a turn off panel on my second monitor. At the moment I'm using my monitor for all the streaming stuff. I'm keeping an eye that Twitch and all that stuff is working okay, so I don't have my other monitor today for animating really, but yeah, I'm feeling that's looking pretty good. But as I say, I'm going to do a little bit on the chest just to break it up a little bit. Just going to maybe add a few more keys, and I say these aren't really in the reference, but I might actually set a key there, or even there, and then maybe just push it up a little bit. I'm kind of not looking at the reference right now. I might push it back even a little bit more there. I'm kind of exaggerating everything basically. Maybe leaning forward a little bit here. So I'm kind of adding some breakdowns and pushing down a little bit. And maybe again keeping that going the way it was going. Just trying to get a little bit more. I'm looking at the arms now as well, and they definitely need some work, but I'm trying to ignore that and just kind of work from the core out, work from this controller as the kind of primary one I focus on, and then the chest controller tends to be the one I use the next. I like this chest controller in this rig. It's positioned kind of here. Sometimes a lot of rigs will have them up here, which kind of ends up looking kind of weird, because, you know, we don't generally rotate that much from our upper rib cage, whereas it's really down here in the sternum where we kind of do a lot of the twisting motion. So this rig is nicely done like that. So I'm going to go back into sort of a side view again. Again, I'm just going to keep that rotation down. Keep going a couple more frames, and then I'm going to bring it back here this way. Let's have a look at the camera view. It's the mirror camera, and this is the regular camera. Yeah, it's not too bad. He's starting to feel kind of a little bit noisy now. You'll notice towards the end here, I'm feeling a bit of this kind of, and I want for the end of the shot, I want it to feel nice and clear. So I want his I don't want his face moving around too much. You can see it's kind of juddering a little bit there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick look at the camera. Back into the outliner. I've got my shot camera here somewhere. Shot cam, and I'm going to just look at the curves on that. For some reason I've got keys on the shape and I delete all those. I don't know why I have those. I'm going to have keys on the scale as well. So I'm just going to have focal length. Oh, that's locked, that's why I can't delete the key on it. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I'm not animating the focal length, I don't think. No. But I'm going to look at the curves in here. Yeah, it's kind of, it looks a little bit noisy there and a bit floaty. So what I might do is I might kind of try and get it to the end pose a little bit sooner. Like have it come right in here and then kind of hold. I know the original camera and the reference is a bit more of a handheld sort of feel. But I kind of wanted to this is animation, so I want it to feel a little bit sort of, I guess, cleaner. Certainly for the last second or so, second and a half. So all I might even do is just take this key and just middle mouse dragging it to maybe here. Oh, it's telling me that I can't key it because it's locked. So what I'll do is I'll unlock it. I've got a little script here. I write little scripts for lots of stuff like this. Like that's just a very simple Mel script that just selects the camera. It knows, like I always use the same name for the camera, so it knows it's going to be called ShotCam, and then it has this locked camera script that I run that just unlocks it. So now I can access the keys on it. So now I'm going to just frame the last pose at about maybe 10 or maybe even 1.5. I'll see how that looks. It might pull in a bit fast now. Yeah, it does a little bit. But I don't mind it too much. I'm going to maybe key that pose. What if I get rid of this one? Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I like that. I like to keep the cameras really simple, as much as possible. I'm not really a cinematographer by any means, so I really want to just focus on the performance so much. So now I've got the camera not moving at all. I'm just going to select the cameras. For some reason it's keying the shape again, which is weird, but anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to just look at those keys. I'm going to make sure everything is set to auto tangents, and then I'm going to lock the camera again. This basically toggles that, so now you can see these are grayed out. I should make these, actually delete that and just make them non-keyable. It just means I won't end up with all that junk in the graph editor. And what I can do is actually, if I unlock it again, now I can delete this, because I'm almost sure, yeah, I'm not animating the focal length. And now I can make selected non-keyable, and now I can lock the camera again, and now I won't be able to move it while I'm animating, pulling the character around. So now I'm feeling fairly good about the I'm going to worry about his details like his arms and that kind of stuff later, but I'm going to have a look at the reference again just to see what the last pose is like. Yeah, so I think his last pose there is more interesting than what I've got. There's a really nice, see this kind of I grab my little drawing thing here. There's this really nice line going down here. Ignore that. His chest is kind of tilted away from us a little bit, and I've got that here, got that sort of similar sort of idea here with this shoulder being up and the other one being back, and his arm kind of pulled behind him, which kind of shows the weight of him swinging his arms around. It's kind of nice. But that pose is looking pretty good, but this last pose I feel like it could be stronger. But there's almost a reversal there. It's almost like where his chest has kind of come around. It's not quite, um, not quite 3/4 to us, but you know, if I was to draw the center line, it's a little bit angled towards this way, whereas he's not really angled that much. So I'm going to maybe try and get that, so you can see it really swings through. So I'm going to pull him a little bit. You'll notice I mentioned this in the last video. I've got his head in world space. It's an option on the rig here, head world local, which is just makes it easier for making changes like this. I don't have to animate his head on top of that. The other thing you'll notice is his head is kind of staying in the same place through this move, which I like. You know, see, even though his body's moving around quite a lot, his head isn't really moving in space very much. It's tilting. You can see by his nose, it's tilting a little bit this direction. So I'd like to kind of get that sort of feel as well. So I might just adjust this pose a little bit so I get him sort of here, and then I'll just put down maybe a couple of guidelines just to kind of give me something to shoot for. So maybe here and here, you know. So I want to keep his head roughly in this area. I don't want it to move too much, because partly it helps the viewer like connect with the character. You know, the face of the character is what you look at. Obviously Deadpool, we can't see his grin like this, which would be cool if we could make him grin. But I think if we can get that across with his attitude without having to actually see his face. I know there's some basic facial controls in here, I think, for his jaw, but I don't think it's really going to give us a grin. So yeah, you can see there that push forward there, that's feeling kind of noisy to me, so I'm going to take it out. I'm basically just going to key it back so I can keep his face in that space. And then again here, I'm going to keep it. I don't mind that it's traveling up and you know, in Y here, but I want to keep it sort of in the same area on the screen. And then here, I think I want to just even a little bit more, push it a little bit from the reference, and then I'll pull it over a little bit like that. And I might even just take out that key and maybe just even nudge it a little bit. That's another thing I have on this toolbox that I use a lot. It's very like Tween Machine. It's kind of my own version of Tween Machine. It basically compares the current pose to the next one, and it makes it more like it. If I hold a little hotkey, it'll make it 5%. If I don't hold a hotkey, it goes forward in 50% increments. Or if I hit another hotkey, it goes exact halfway. Things like that. It's very similar to Tween Machine, but it just suits my. I actually wrote another version for another program a while back, and I kind of liked how it worked, so I ended up writing a version for Maya that's like that. And I kind of like that it's just buttons. It's just kind of like that way. I'm just thinking in like more like that, less like that. I'm not thinking about percentages or numbers or that kind of thing. So that's kind of not bad. And what I'm going to do then, you'll notice his head isn't staying where I want it exactly. I'm going to use the neck control to keep it back. So I'm going to key it on the same frame as the chest. I'm going to delete that key. You'll notice I delete keys a lot as well. That's another thing. I think my most important hotkey in Maya is X, which is cut key. It's set to the I think it's down here. Yeah, cut. But I do it with a hotkey because I do it so much. So I set keys and cut them and set them and cut them all the time. Especially when I'm baking things, you end up with a lot of keys. So I'm going to just put it back so his head ends up in roughly the same space. So let's have a look at that. I'm actually going to just get rid of the start of the shot as well. Just use the time slider here so I can focus on this last section, because this is kind of, you know, yeah, that's feeling a bit better. We're still getting a nice bit of movement towards the end of the shot. I might now do sort of little things like maybe pull his shoulder back here a little bit more and kind of down. Maybe this one kind of forward a little bit. I might twist this arm a little bit this way and maybe pull this up a little bit. And maybe swing this one out. It's kind of a little bit tough to tell with his you know, black clothes, not giving much away there. But yeah, I think that's looking a bit better. I might even bring his neck just a tiny bit more. Yeah, so really keeping it in that spot. Yeah, not too bad. So I'm gonna get rid of all those drawings. You'll notice as well when I hit play or scrub the his controllers hide. That's a feature I really like that was introduced. I think in 2017. It's basically if you have the controllers on a layer and you turn off this P option, which is playback. See now they're showing, and now they won't play, which is really great because I like to use controllers. I do use GUIs and stuff every now and then, but that's something I just like grabbing the character. I'll often use something like All Picker for making kind of selections like for all or for the left fingers or right fingers on the neck, or just things that I find I'm grabbing over and over again. And I do use the this picker, the Adam School one from now and every now and then, depending on the rig. Again, it can be handy, but I don't like to rely too much on those because that particularly the Adam School one, it's great, but it's a plugin. And I've been on the Maya beta for a while now, and it won't run in the beta because the next beta version isn't available yet, so it hasn't been updated, obviously. So that's the one issue with relying too much on plugins is they need to be compiled for each new version of Maya. Whereas with things like scripts like MacMel and Python, they generally are a bit more compatible from version to version. They don't usually need to be adjusted too much. So I'm just kind of looking at this as I'm going through. I might just do a quick bit of just curve polishing on his chest, just to kind of look at the spacing on that, like the rotate Y there at the end. Yeah, I'd like to favor that in a little bit more, have it a little bit smoother, so he's kind of really hitting that. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. Like I don't want it to feel like he's coming to a stop here. I kind of want the shot to feel like we've just caught him in the moment of doing something, and then the shot ends and he's still doing that thing. That's kind of a nice thing as well with even with storytelling. Come in the middle of an action or the middle of the story rather than kind of like somebody just standing there and then they start doing something. That always feels a bit unnatural. So I don't want it to feel like he's coming to a stop, but I want it to feel like almost like it's a moment frozen in time that we can kind of really focus and kind of see him. Like I've really simplified this head action there. I might even tilt it back just a little bit for that key. Let's get rid of this one. So you get a little bit of a push up through the head there. I want to keep it alive. And maybe swing it outwards a little bit that way. I want to keep it alive, but not floating around too much or too much noise in it, so you can't kind of connect to it. Yeah, I feel that's okay. So I'm going to just do one more little tweak on the chest, on the rotate Z. I'm going to look at I kind of feel that there was something kind of a bit weird there. So see there, the rotate Z is kind of flattens out there for a second, and then it sort of twists again. If I change this though, it might end up moving his head. Yeah, it does. So maybe split the difference. And now we're back to, unfortunately, we're back to the kind of head wobbling a little bit. So let's actually go back to that. It might be something I can fix further lower down. If I look at the rotate Z on this, if I smooth that out, maybe even take that key out. It's not bugging me as much now, and his head is still staying where it is. And like it does look a bit weird in the graph editor, the fact that I've got this kind of stop and then hold. But sometimes you can kind of go too far. It's certainly something I've run into. You can go too far worrying about what the graph editor looks like. It's certainly very good for troubleshooting things, or if something is doing a weird rotation or it just feels really noisy. It's great for that. But it's very easy to get into a mindset where you start making sure everything in here looks pretty, and for the most part these curves do look fairly clean. There's another little sort of hole there, but some of this, sometimes you need holes, so you need curves to look a bit weird to get the motion you want. And I find if I take that out, that's pushing his head forward too much. Now I feel like I'm getting that noise back in. So I'm gonna err on what looks good in the view. His head. I like his head coming to that. I'm actually going to look at this pose and this pose. I'm just going to see if I can get a nicer transition between those two. But this last bit here, I like how it looks. So I'm not going to fix that curve. I don't think it's broken. In other words, so I'm going to do another quick couple of draw overs. So I'm just going to draw over his head here for this pose, and then where was it? Oh, it's actually not a key there, but it's a key on his chest. And then this one, you can see if I switch to a different color there. If I do this one, the shape isn't moving too much there, whereas the one in between, it's kind of coming over and then back up. So I'd like to keep it a little bit smoother. And I think rather than fixing the chest, I'll just do that with the neck. So maybe like this, just so it's kind of coming up a bit nicer. Yeah. I prefer that. You notice I kind of sit back sometimes as well. I even kind of squint sometimes, or I'll switch the view to my mirrored camera. Anything I can really to try and get a fresh feel of what it's looking like. And there is some noise here earlier in the head, but I kind of want that. I want it to feel, lively. It's just really that last section, the last, what is it, 8 frames. I want it to feel, like we really get to see him. So I'm going to say that's okay for that, but I'm going to save, and then I'm going to go back into perspective view and work on the arms a little bit. Just like for most of it, I actually show the whole range again. I feel like it's not too bad. There's a transition from IK to FK when his hands are on his legs, like this bit, which I might clean up eventually. But the ending section here, I just feel like the arms are a little bit weightless. They're kind of hitting a wall here, like just in this last bit. So I'm going to maybe do a little bit of work on the upper arms and the forearms. You'll notice I show and hide the controllers a lot. It's another thing I have a hotkey for because I like to do it even when I'm looking at the pose with the character frozen. I like to just turn those off. So I'm just going to look at what the arm is doing. I'm kind of looking at the right arm first. Yeah, I'm going to try and make that feel a little bit better. Even though it won't really be seen, it doesn't look too bad from the main view. I'm just going to pull that up a little bit more maybe. And then it's a little bit more dragged now, but now it's kind of hitting really hard and kind of stopping. I'm sure if I look at the curve there as well, you'll see it. It's rotate Y. Yeah, you see it there. So if I pull that back maybe a little bit and maybe give it a little bit of overshoot, that's not so bad. The other thing I look at is the arm itself. It's a little bit of rotate Z and a little bit of rotate Y. I'll look at the cursor now as well. It looks a little bit noisy here. I'll experiment with that. No, that's not where I want. I want it to be more like this. So I actually want to kind of hold it a little bit more. Yeah, it's too soft. And what if I keep that going? Yeah, I'll actually put that further. Now I'm kind of using the graph editor to kind of figure that out. Yeah. A little bit better. So I'm not going to spend too long on this because it isn't really visible in the camera, but it is. We're going to feel it. I tend to work outwards. Like I actually did the forearm first in this case, but typically I would work kind of from the upper arm first. I'm going to look at the Z curve as well here. I'm just going to play with this, see what this does. So let's actually bring it down if I go that way. So I'm going to keep that going back. Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, I don't mind that too much. And let's look at X just because I haven't so far. Yeah, that's kind of a weird looking curve there. And what is X doing? Sometimes it can be doing, it's kind of the swing outwards, this sort of motion. It'll depend on where you are, of course, sometimes. Yeah, so I'm just going to ease that in and maybe just smooth this curve out a little bit. Yeah, it feels a little bit better. I'm kind of just popping around the carriage from different angles and just checking out what that looks like. Yeah. I can even then do a little bit on the wrist. You know, again, if I check my camera, it's not really going to be seen, but it is a little bit. You see, we feel the thumb there. I might just set a key here, and then set a key here. That's the thing I tend to do, or tend to notice as well. The further a limb is away from the source of the motion, like if you've, like say the arm, I tend to need maybe some keys here, more keys on the elbow, more on the wrist. It's like the further away you get from whatever's driving the force. In this case, you know, the arm, the shoulder, and the chest is really what's driving the hand. Like he's, you know, gesturing with his hand, but the main force is coming from up here. It seems like you need more keys as you get further along. It's a common thing I've seen. Like people who walk cycles, people will go, "Oh, it needs to, like, you know, the arm will needs to drag on the way back," but they won't hold it before the drag. They won't put an extra key, so it'll just end up kind of going, you know, like very smoothly into the overlap, which kind of makes it feel underwater. Whereas if you put a key in to hold it in the previous pose and then snap quickly into the overlap, it gives it much more weight. So that's what I'm doing when I'm putting this key in here. This key is just locking the pose that was there. I can even push it back to closer. Now you'll see, you feel like into perspective view and just frame up on that. So I've kept it there. And now I do the, as the rest of the body starts swinging down, now I pull this up. I want to make sure that the wrist doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's another thing as well, you kind of notice if you study the body, our wrists don't have much rotation in this axis. And they have a lot in this axis. I'm wearing the glove here for the Cintiq, but you know, so it's another thing you see people doing walk cycles. They have the hand doing this, which is kind of unnatural. You know, we do have a range of movement that way, but very little, maybe like 30 degrees, 40 degrees. Whereas in this angle, we have like huge amount. And then in this angle, it's actually the forearm, the radius, and the ulna here rotate around each other. So we have a good bit of rotation there, and then a good bit here, but really not that much here. And if you kind of have the arm pose it like that, it starts to look kind of uncomfortable because we don't, our body's trying to avoid things that hurt. Basically, it's just, you know, self protection. So I'm always trying to keep that line through this arm here, you know, like for example, this, that looks really broken, you know, that looks sore, or this. I'm getting carpal tunnel just looking at that, you know. But this angle here, I can even maybe push that up a little bit more, just on that one key. I'm really exaggerating it now, but you'll see now, you feel that flick, and it's not carried through though here. I can maybe bring it down like that. I would swing through there. This might be way too much, but it's not bad though, because I want it to feel quite loose here. Like if we go back to the reference again, you'll see, you know, there is a real looseness to it. Like look at his gesture here. Look at this hand. You know, look at that drags through there. See his thumb. You can almost trace an arc, like going whoop like that. You know, that's really lovely. so much weight there. You can see the motion blur as well. It gives you an indication of how fast that hand is moving. I want to check actually, do I have that in my animation, because that's really nice. Yeah, I don't have it as much as that, not at all. Let's have a look. It looks like I kind of blocked it in, like I kind of did the initial kind of thing. I have it sort of there, but not nearly as much as him. So I'm going to exaggerate that. And you can see even here, it's like right back. And of course, I render this with a bit of motion blur. It might help me get that. I'd even maybe stretch the fingers back, just on that pose, just to kind of really sell that. You can see they're kind of bunched up together. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, see that? Feels a lot more. And again, I don't want it to go into that too early. You see his hand there, its angle here, it hasn't done that flip over yet. It hasn't just gone, it's gone, there's a quick change there. So I want to get that. So I want to keep the arm back here. Maybe keep it in line with the wrist a bit more, or with the forearm. Can I see his thumb? I'll grab his thumb controller here. Bring that up. Just so we get a little bit closer to the pose we got here. This would be nice. Actually, I really like the way we can see his thumb. The last phalange or something, but it's kind of stressed. It's like just kind of like a tension in it there. I'm going to take that again. I just cut in that key. There we go. And there's some similar stuff happening with the other. I'm going to hit incremental again. Similar stuff happening with this other hand as well. Just going to look at that. Kind of like what we have there. Again, I keep it in line with the wrist. I need to go and do a pass on his fingers as well. Actually, I wonder. I think I have it on my picker here. Left fingers. I can kind of nudge them towards the next pose. Yeah, there we go. That's a quick pass of putting something in there anyway. I'll go back and finesse this for sure, but and then maybe keep it. You can see it's starting to flip here, but here it really does. Like maybe even push the. Yeah, but I'll actually take that. I don't want to put keys right on top of each other most of the time, unless I'm trying to get something really specific. So I'm going to key here, and then take this key out, and then just pull this back a little bit. There we go. So we're really feeling that change. That kind of that light kind of pull through. And that's the great thing about video reference. Obviously you don't always use films. I'm using this film because I just saw the action and thought it was great. And acting stuff out yourself, is essential. Really, unfortunately, for us who are kind of a bit shy or whatever. But you gotta get used to it. But when you have somebody like this who's obviously like a good physical actor, or people like Jim Carrey or whatever, you're not going to compete with people like that, really. So why not, at least for a test, not for maybe a commercial job, obviously, but for your own kind of study, go to something that's already pretty entertaining. That's really half the battle. If you that's a problem I found with the first few shots I tried to do when I was studying. I animate. Just my reference just wasn't very good because I was kind of conservative and shy about doing the reference, and I was really holding back. And you're trying to push it down in the animation, but which you try and do anyway. But you don't. You're trying to put something in that's not there at all. Whereas in this, his performance is entertaining. His body actions are fluid, and you can sense the excitement in there. So all I have to really do is just try and get that in my animation, and I'm already 3/4 of the way there to doing an entertaining shot. With the other Deadpool shots I did, actually the other dancing stuff I did, I don't think I did any reference for it myself. I sourced a lot of it on YouTube and places like that, and I found there's one particular guy, I have to find the link, but who sorry, I'm just looking. I'm just noticing messages. Uh, can you look a bit more about description plugins you use? Have you tried Animbot? Hey mate, turn on notifications, but didn't get one. It's Eddie. Hey Eddie, nice to. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, okay. I'll pause. I'll just save again because my. Have I tried Animbot? I have a couple of times. I've installed it, and I think it's great. Like I see people, using it a lot. It's obviously very very cool. I guess part of it is that I sort of have my own version, and I'm kind of used to how it works. And when it doesn't work the way I want it to work, I can just change it. I don't have to go to the developer, Alan, isn't it, of Animbot, and kind of go, oh, this is a bug that can you change this, or and I guess that's my main reason for using my own stuff rather than his. What I like about mine as well is that I can modify different sections. Like I can modify one particular tool for a particular job, whereas with his stuff, it seems to be like you have to install the whole lot, and you're kind of, it adds a lot to your interface. I notice, which again, that's fine if you're used to that. But I kind of like my interface very sort of uncluttered. You notice I have this, the default my workspace is like this. I think it's just the shelf up here has some more stuff up here, whereas I have this minimal one, which just simplifies things a little bit, and I have the shelf on the bottom because I'm working on a Cintiq, so my hand, if I have the shelf buttons up here, my hand is going to be covering the icons a lot, or covering the screen while I'm hitting the buttons. So I like to have the shelf down here, and I like to keep the interface fairly simple, because I like to work. I do work with a second monitor, but I usually just have another camera there, or I have my reference there, so I'm kind of looking up and down at it. I'm not working in two windows most of the time. I'm really just animating on one screen most of the time. This I really like the Cintiq for animating. A lot of people think that's maybe a bit strange because they prefer just working with a keyboard and a mouse, more traditional. And when I'm working with a pen, and it just, I don't know, it feels to me, I guess I think I'm like a frustrated stop motion animator in some ways, and I feel like working with this, I kind of feel like I'm almost interacting with a puppet, which it's a digital puppet, but to me it's as close as I can get to stop motion in some ways. And that's again why I like to use the controllers directly on the character most of the time instead of a GUI, because again the GUI kind of just separates me out from, I have to go and click on another interface and then click back in here to adjust something, and then again. So I like to just work directly on the character. I do like these things for like when you want to get all. I don't want to have to zoom out and grab all the controls. I can just hit that, and then I've got all the controls in the rig, or I might have ones for like all body or all face and that kind of stuff. Or I might add those to a shelf for some rigs. But it's nice. I really like this thing. It's just really simple. You can just add buttons and edit them very quickly. It's all control pickers. That's not one of my own tools. That's a tool that's available on the net. It's a free one, and I find that great because it's just simple, and it gets stored in the Maya scene when you open it again. I think there's something very similar to that in Animbot as well. But yeah, I guess the main reason I use my own stuff is just because I know it. If I go into my rig tool shelf here, this is a great script manager actually, ML script manager, and if you look here, any of these scripts here with a BH preface on them, these are all scripts I've written. There's a ton of them. Some of them I've released, some of them are on my my Gumroad page or my website. There are links on that below actually. But the vast majority of these are just little small things I wrote to just fix a particular problem. If I was working on a rig and I needed to suddenly change something for the whole animation, I just write a little GUI or a little macro kind of thing that would just fix what I need to do. Or some of them are for rigging, just for doing a lot of kind of like here's the one actually for example, called Control Builder, which is I use it for setting up controllers for loads of objects set quickly. It has kind of typical options I use with colors and that kind of stuff. Again, there's loads of these kind of scripts available on the web, but I just wanted one that would work the way I did it. So I find I spend a bit of time obviously writing these, but once I've got them, I know exactly how they work and I know exactly how to modify them. And that's the thing with using something like Animbot, is like I can't modify it myself to suit me, and that to me is a limitation. For most people who don't script or code, that's fine. They don't they're just happy to use as it is, and I'm sure, like, I know Alan does listen to a lot of feedback from people, but I just feel like with this, I just get control. Ultimately, just a lot of control over what I do. So the other question, for retiming, when I have keys all over the place, I find it extremely hard to retime it. Do you use character sets in Maya? I don't use character sets. I know some people who swear by them. I've tried them. I don't know why. I just never really warmed to them. I tend to just use like things like this, like buttons for selecting different things, or I might have like, some of the anime rigs here. They have buttons for like select all, select body, select face. I tend to use that kind of stuff, but I don't really use character sets. I've messed around with them because I've seen some animators who swear by them, and they really work for them. But I don't know. I think part of it is even something silly, like, but when you have something in an animation layer, it changes color in the channel box. That's a stupid reason not to use them, but I'm just used to like seeing whether something has keys on it or has constraints on it in there, and I don't know. I just never found character sets work for me. Regarding retiming, it's tricky. This shot isn't a great example because I'm using the timing really very much from the live action reference. I haven't done anything with the reference to change the timing. I haven't done anything really with the animation to change it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll push a pose more. It mightn't sound intuitive, but if you exaggerate a pose more, then the spacing gets bigger, which makes it feel faster. Actually, just as a quick demo, I'll open up another Maya and just show you. It's one of those things that's mentioned, I think, in the animated survival kit, that timing and spacing are completely connected. I'll just show you like a quickly really silly example using like say like a cube. If I just key that here and then say key it on frame 25 and then key it on frame 13, and then 13, then I'll just pull it up here, and then I'm just going to loop it. So that's another hotkey I had there for looping it. So I've got just going up and down. If I look at the graph editor, then if I actually change the pose, if I scale those keys up, so it's now moving. Now it's moving faster, even though I haven't changed the timing. It's still same keys, but I've exaggerated the poses. Whereas if I make that smaller, now it's moving slower because it's moving less distance in the same amount of time. So it's a weird thing. That's one of the complicated things about timing and animation, is that it's always related to the spacing. You can't separate them really. So your comment, I find it very confusing. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry I can't be more helpful in that, but hopefully that gives you something to think about. Is that if you find something's happening too fast, maybe the change in the pose is actually too big for the timing you want. So it's something, again, using live action reference can really help you kind of figure it out. I've even done, like, on some jobs, if there's a particular thing I'm having difficulty animating timing wise, I'll just film myself doing it, even if it's just like a hand gesture or something small like that. I'll just do it and try and do it a couple of different ways and make it feel natural. Okay, I'm just reading your comment. I mean, if I animate a character, like you said earlier, and you have a certain amount of keys on the hip and then a whole lot more in other parts, how do I retime all of that? I mean, you don't have keys on all controls and all frames. Okay, well, in that case, what I would do, I don't want to break my Deadpool shot here, but I've already saved it. I'm going to save it again just to be sure. What I literally do is just, I kind of use, I suppose you might call them bookmark keys. Say I want to make this move here faster. I'm going to just kill my shot for a little bit. And I don't have keys on the same frames. Here on the cog I've got there. I've got more on the wrist, more on the shoulders, probably more on the head. What I do is I just select all, key there, and then say I want that pose to be the next pose. I'll key there, and then I'll key this one, and then I'll just delete the ones in between. And now I've slowed it down, and it's kind of horrible because I've taken out all the nice snap to it. But now I can take this and move it forward. And now I change the timing on it. And now I've got keys on everything on those frames. And that's basically what I do, is I just, I've kind of broken the flow a little bit. I've kind of changed almost the mood of that action now. But that's again the timing. It really does affect everything. So I'm gonna just gonna revert back to save there, so we get rid of those changes. I could just undo, but I just want to make sure I get exactly back to where I was. But yeah, that's what I generally do. Is when I'm blocking something out, I'll usually key everything on the rig. But when I start adding breakdowns, you'll notice like I have different amounts of keys on. Particularly, as I say, as I get further away from the source of the motion, like the fingers and the wrists will probably have a lot more keys than say the upper arm or the torso. And it's something that as part of it comes with experience. Really, unfortunately, just doing it over and over. That's what I'm so afraid of, deleting keys I like. Yeah, I get that. One of my earliest animation teachers, actually, at Animate, was a woman called Angie Jones, and she was merciless sometimes with us just deleting stuff. Just do that again. And at the beginning, when I was trying to learn how to animate, I found that really hard. I just, it was like, what? I just barely got it working. It's kind of like this house of cards, and if I take something out now, the whole thing is going to fall apart, and it usually does. Unfortunately, when you're beginning, but I got used to it. It's just like you just kind of get used to it, and it's a really good thing to get used to. It's just trying stuff out and redoing it. It is hard and it's slow, particularly when you start. But like in commercial work, you'll get it all the time. Even if you've done something beautiful and the client likes it, somebody else down the line likes something else, or they've decided that that's actually not the action we want, and you have to delete it. And it's not that it's bad animation or it's you're a bad animator or anything like that. It's just that's life as an animator or as any sort of creative person. Really, you end up getting notes all the time, things that you don't necessarily want, but you have to do them. And getting used to deleting stuff I think is almost one of the most important skills to develop, and to be able to just go, yeah, it's gone, it's grand. It's hard because when you're starting off, you don't have that confidence that you can build it again, that you can make it look good again. But the more you do it, the more you get that, and the more you just start going, yeah, I can do it again. I can you can do variations on a theme. You can keep, and again with Maya, I just always save a version, and I even name the file. If I show you just for an example here, I use silly long file names. I guess I gotta be careful of this on a network or something, but I'm just using local files here. And you'll notice I've got all these different. I've got blocking continue, then I got blocking camera, then I got refining walk based on reference, general polish, testing worlds. That was actually a new script I wrote a while back. I was testing that. Clean up body and perspective view. And finessing camera. That's currently what I'm working on. So I tend to do that. I give the file a new name, and kind of so it keeps it very clear in my mind what I'm actually working on. Then I save incrementally all the time, and then I can always go back. If I want to take something from one of these earlier shots, I can go back and grab it and put it back in. I use Studio Library all the time for that kind of stuff. I've got, this is a short film I'm working on. That's a short animation I've been kind of working on myself. And I've got like all these little actions. Sometimes it's just a pelvis and head, sometimes it's just a head or the eye animation. And I can use that to bring them back into other shots. If I've changed something, I've gone down a road I don't want to go down, I can always take stuff from an older shot. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend. So always save. Hard drive space is cheap. Time isn't. And sanity isn't. But if you can go back to an older version and grab something out of it that you need for your current shot, it can save you a lot of headaches. And then you're saying you also find you don't use a dope sheet every time. No, I never use a dope sheet. I literally never use it. I think it's kind of crap in my, quite honest. I don't know. I know some people like it, but I do everything in the graph editor or in the timeline here. I also have a few hotkeys again to just kind of nudge stuff back and forward. Like if I want to select all, and say if I key here and key here, I've got a little tool here that I can select all the keys from there and just nudge everything forward. I'm pretty sure Animbot has stuff like that as well. So now I'm going to slow that move down there. I just add a bit more time. It's kind of funny. It feels like he's going slow motion there for a second. That kind of thing. Or I can do the same thing, select keys and move them back. or I can put in an increment or a frame number and have them jump by that amount. So that's my dope sheet really. Like I have a button here for opening a dope sheet, but I just don't like that. It's just, I don't know. I don't think that's a very good interface for me anyway. It just doesn't. I do retiming on the graph editor as well. Like, if I have everything selected, and I might grab all these keys and just pull all that forward. Or oops, going nuts here. Again, I'm just going to revert to saved. But yeah, I don't really use a dope sheet. I have an animation that I like, but its spacing and timing is wrong. I've animated the morphing on the rig. So he actually transforms in the shot. Those keys are not accessible in the regular rig, but in a certain mode of the rig, if you will. That's a tough one. Not to be smart, but I guess that comes down to planning. Having what I'll often do is work really light on my first pass. With the minimum amount of keys, the minimum amount of controls. And if I'm doing something complicated like that, I'll just stick a cube in where that's happening and just animate the cube for a second. And then it's Morpheus. I haven't used that rig. I think I get the name, but yeah, I don't know. Anytime you do something complicated like that, I would just put in a proxy thing first, just to see how the timing is, and not get too bogged down. Because that stuff is, the more you animate, or constraints, things like that are difficult. I never switch constraints actually as well. That's another thing I keep constraints really, really simple. Say if I wanted him, I'll just show you actually. Say if I had a cube. Cubes are my favorite things for demonstrating things. I'll just go into perspective view. Perspective view, and then if I grab that cube and say stick it in his hand, some people would animate make it a bit smaller, maybe make it a bit taller so you can kind of see it. So if I want him to hold that in his hand as he's doing this move, and then not have it at another point. Some people would animate the constraint on and off, but I just, that kind of stuff drives me mad. I just find that really hard to retime. So what I tend to do instead is I maybe select the control, like maybe his thumb control here, or his index finger, and then that, and then I'll just constrain it. I have a couple of options here: parent, constraint, and key. So now it's constrained for that bit. But say I wanted him to drop it. Say I want him to just have it for, say, frame. Say I wanted, this is a silly example, but just to illustrate the point. Say I want him to just pick it up here, and then leave it go here. What I'll do is I use, this is a little GUI I use again just for baking. You can do this through the animation menu, and I'll just say I want it to come in here, say 83. You can do this through the other interface. It's just a quicker way I have for setting it up. And then I wanted to leave it go here, which is frame 93. So I'll just select that object, and I'll just bake it for those frames. And then I'll just delete the parent constraint and key it again, and I'll get rid of this key as well. And that's it. So now I don't have any constraints in the scene. And if I want him to, now you can see it's not exactly in the right place here, so I can just animate it and pull it here where I want, and then maybe here, so I've got him holding it sort of, but I'm also able to kind of animate it, so that's, and then he's left it go again. So the constraint, I only use it as a temporary thing. I think again Animbot, I feel like I'm promoting Animbot here, even though I don't use it. I feel like that has something for this as well, match transforms or something like that. But I just use a parent constraint. It's a simple approach. I use it only as a temporary thing though. I don't leave it in the scene because I don't want to have to animate it. And if I retime this, I can just retime that or delete the animation and rebake it. I don't like animating constraint weights off and on. You always end up with the kind of things jumping. There are tools out there like that. ZV Parent Master, I think, is one of them. But I just found out, I remember working on a job where I had like characters like interacting with credit cards, putting them in their wallet and then putting them into a machine, all this kind of stuff. It was just horrible trying to do that with switching constraints. So I just found this kind of brute force, kind of lo-fi approach, if you like, just kind of kept it simple because I was able to just use regular animation keys. You know, I could even have that slip out of his hand now there if I wanted. You know, because it's just animated. You know, so that's how I do it. Really, I don't ever animate constraint values. I just put them on, bake it for a set of frames, and then delete it again. And then if I change it, retime it, then I have an old character with Kane transforming to vampires. I'm sure I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know how much time I'll have to go into details like that, but you know, again, it comes down to timing, or to planning. You know, I would say that, you know, anytime you're doing something complicated like that, a character dealing with props, you know, just don't get into the details too quickly. Figure out the basic animation first. So I'm going to go back to Deadpool now for a bit. Just put my head down and just kind of focus on this. I'm going to look at this arm. I didn't do anything with this arm yet for this end section. So I'm going to look, again, I'm going to use a bit of the graph editor and a little bit of just looking at it in the view. So I'm going to look at, because I felt again at the end, particularly at the end of the shot, it was getting a little bit dead. Yeah, the arm there, it feels like it kind of hits, you know, like this outside edge just kind of stops. I can maybe even get that with the shoulder a little bit. You kind of pull that back a little bit, maybe down. That's a little bit better. So again, kind of working from the top out. But the forearm is also doing the same kind of thing. It's kind of going clunk. You can actually see it again in the graph editor. It kind of just stops. So I might have it not come down quite so quickly. And then what does that feel like? No, don't like that. I'm going to see it in the view again. It doesn't look too bad in the view, but I want to get it right in 3D space as well. So I'm going to look at it. I'm going to do those changes first, and I'm going to go up higher. It's a better way to work. Really looking for rotate Z for or X, Y first on this one, and just so I've got them kind of hitting there, and then yeah, I feel like that should maybe kind of keep swinging back rather than just. So I'm kind of just looking at the upper arm now, I'm trying to ignore the lower arm, which is hard, but I'm trying to do it. And now, see his torso is kind of swinging around here and then starts swinging back. But his arm feels like it's kind of welded on him. So I wanted his arm to kind of, at this point, to kind of keep swinging forward a little bit more. So like come forward here. So I want this to kind of ease out more, or maybe even go further. See there, quite a small change in pose makes quite a big difference to graph editor. And I'll smooth this curve out. And let's look at rotate Z. Rotate Z. Actually, I'll do X first, because X is kind of the twist in the arm, like this kind of direction. And I feel like it should be twisting maybe a little bit more at this point. Yeah. And it should keep going. You know, his arm is heavy, and he's not. If you look at the reference, he's not, you know, being very rigid with his arms. He's really just swinging them around, this kind of happy, sort of energetic sort of feel. So, and I think I can maybe even grab these two keys and just pull them back, so it's kind of coming back this way. So again, it's kind of dragging. Maybe even a little bit more. Maybe a little bit this way as well. It's not beautiful. Try to ignore the forearm. But I might even swing it out a little bit here so I kind of exaggerate the change. And then here. what happens if I just delete that key altogether? Leave it kind of swing through. Yeah, it's okay, but I feel like I need another key here, and then maybe bring it down a little bit. That's better, but now it's a little bit noisy here. So I might leave these come through. How does that feel in the camera view? Sometimes I'll have both views open at the same time. Yeah, it's not bugging me now. My bicep feels like I might be twisting a little bit too much. So I might key that. I might key to here. I might get rid of this key and see what that feels like. Yeah, that's not too bad. But I still want the forearm to feel a little bit weightier. I'll go back to the reference for a second. It's kind of hard to tell because it's black, you know, it's not getting much from the reference, but just from, you know, thinking about physics, certainly not an expert on physics, but just thinking about, you know, things weighing things and things wanting to keep going the direction they're going. If it's rotating up here, like in Y, it's going to want to keep going that way. As the arm swings down, it's going to like do that. So you can see this key here kind of feels wrong. If I delete it even, that's a little bit better. I can maybe even push it so it comes down and then back into perspective. And have it coming down, like following through. Have it following through here. I don't think I need that key. That's starting to feel a little bit weightier. His hand feels really paddly, you know. Again, it's not visible, so I might be going nuts animating it, but I might just put a one key here. It just barely comes into frame. Again, just to sort of help it. Because again, this pose is starting to feel a little bit weird. What I was talking about earlier, see his wrist is starting to feel a little bit broken. So bring it back here, and maybe here. And maybe just tilt it a little bit there, make it a little bit, feel a little bit more natural. Because if it's come through this way, it's swung around here, you know, that maybe pull it in a little bit so it's a little bit more tensed here, and then the tension kind of goes out of it. So it kind of might twist around the direction it's going, and then keep going like that maybe. And again, I'm breaking the wrist a little bit too much there. That's a little bit better, but maybe again keep it back where it was and then bring it back up. And maybe just experimenting here. That's too much, but let me take this pose and key that there. And really I should animate the thumb and the fingers and all that kind of stuff as well to make that feel right. You know, swing it there and then have it drag down here, have it come down here. Maybe take those keys out, don't need it. You know, I'm really nitpicking stuff there that won't ever be visible. But I like the overall feel of it, like the wrist coming through here. Maybe even drag it down a little bit more, just to push this overlap, and then coming up here a little bit slower, and then bam, there's the change. Even push that maybe a tiny bit more than reality, you know, just to really get that snap. So I'm going to save that. Enjoying the class. Oh, great, thanks, Eddie. Another thing you get caught with is gimbal lock, especially on the wrists. All their filter works sometimes, but not always. Yeah. One of the things you might notice that I always do, it's just a habit, is when I'm rotating the wrist, I never free rotate. I can't actually. If you go into the rotate tool options, they've changed what it was called. It used to be called, there it is, free rotate. If I have that on, then I can do this. I always have that off. I don't like that at all. Apart from the fact that I can't select things through it, I don't like doing this because I just find it gives me gimbal a lot quicker. So I always turn that off, and I always use an individual axes for rotation, which might seem a little bit slower, but I find I get a lot less gimbal with that. And I will run the oil filter every now and then, just to see if it changes anything. It says it's changed 5 keys there, but I don't really see any difference. I don't run into gimbal too much, I guess maybe because I always do that. The other thing is that sometimes there's this rotation order doesn't suit your rig. Like this rig is pretty well set up for kind of a body mechanics rig animation like this, so it's working pretty well. But what I have a video actually on my Vimeo page. I don't have the link handy, but if you go on my Vimeo page, there's a video called rotation orders for animators, and that goes into like how you can change rotation orders to suit your shot, so you'll get less gimbal options. That's something that's worth checking out. But yeah, I don't run into it too much. I think part of it is because I'm fairly careful with how I rotate things. But yeah, that for me, that free rotate option is just it's evil. It just causes gimbal too much. I'm looking at this wrist again, and I'm still kind of feeling like I could just twist that a little bit more, just to really. Yeah, I'm really exaggerating that now, but. So I think I'm getting to where I'm fairly happy with the body mechanics now for the overall shot. And say, if I go back into perspective, certainly some of it looks pretty rough towards the end here, but overall I feel like he's fairly natural looking. Like that ending here, what am I seeing there? Yeah, I feel like that arm should maybe come back in. Yeah, I feel that's a little bit more natural. I feel like this wrist as well. Again, I'm fixing stuff that will never be seen, but it's always good to kind of practice this stuff anyway. So you see, he's pretty dead below the waist here for this section. But again, that's not what we're going to see at all, so I'm not too concerned about that. So I think I might leave that for. You can't do that after you've started animating, right? You can go and watch that video. You can change the animation. There's a script. There's a couple of scripts out there that'll do it. That'll change rotation order without breaking the animation. So yeah, you can do it. Sometimes you find you paint yourself into a corner with the rotation order, and you need to change it. But so yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about it now. I'm gonna do one more pass of looking at the reference here for the end section for the head. I feel like I can just push things a little bit more to be a little bit closer to the reference. I really like how, if you look at this pose, I really like how his neck is really jutted forward here. So I'm going to animate the neck control maybe a little bit more to even drag that. Again, I'm exaggerating what's in the reference, but that's nice. So I get a bit of a bouncing ball thing there with his head, it's kind of coming up and then it's kind of stretching. And of course his head is actually cut off in that camera. I feel like that pose feels a little bit unnatural, but I kind of like how pushed it is, and he gets through it pretty quick, so I'm not gonna take that out. And maybe push his head forward a little bit there. So I'm gonna just focus on this section for a second. Yeah, look at that attitude of that head there. So I really want to get that. Let's try and get that in there. Kind of pushing the neck forward. He's really kind of leading with his chin there. And I feel like his head is kind of tilting a little bit too much there. I feel like it's getting a little bit noisy though as well. Again, if you look at the on his head there, if I compare say frame 100. Can I draw again? Pen. I don't know what's up with this. Is it because I've hidden it? Yeah, I'll try and close this and open it again. No, I don't want to update, thanks. Not right now. So if I look at his head there and this guy's head, yeah, it kind of comes away from, it kind of comes up through that. That's okay. Although it's a little bit smoother, so again I might animate, might put a key on the neck there. Just keep it just a little bit there. And now you feel it coming across away from that line a little bit. And now, yeah, there's where it's kind of gone a little bit too far. I also feel like his head is twisted a little bit too much. There's more of an attitude there as well. Like, look at the angle of his brows. You know, get some closer to that. And I'm going to nudge back to that pose. I like what's happening there, but I feel like this is too big of a change. So I'm kind of using his neck to keep his head where I want it. I feel like that's better. Feeling a little bit smoother. The camera's moving as well in both shots, and it's not exactly the same camera, so I have to be aware of that as well. But I just want this sense of his head being fairly stable. It's a weird thing if you look at, you know, particularly predators like cats and you know things like that, but humans do it as well. They we tend to keep our heads stable, even when we're dancing and doing all this kind of stuff. You know, our heads, if we shake our heads too much, we start getting, you know, we get motion blur and we get motion sickness. So we really don't want, you know, too much of that stuff going on. We really try and keep our heads quite stable. And it's quite amazing how well we can do it, actually. We're kind of compensating with our neck and our spine all the time to do it, to keep our head sort of in the same overall sort of zone. See, there's the big change. And then here I'm going to kind of err and not breaking the rig too much, because if I pull this back too much, that starts looking really weird. So I'm going to maybe leave his head come through a little bit there. Yeah, it's not too bad now. Like, I don't want it to feel like his head is rigid, but I want it to feel like, you know, it's his body is compensating. His head is kind of almost the focal point, and his head is, you know, keeping that balanced. And I'm going a little bit off the reference here at the end. I put in this. See, this is kind of like, it's kind of almost a little bit of a nod, but I kind of like that. if I look at where his eyes are here, oops, fantastic drawing. Um, I'd like to kind of keep them sort of in that zone, maybe by tilting them up a little bit. Just so we really get the chance to, he doesn't even have pupils, but we still tend to look at the character's eyes. The other thing I might do is even just translate the chest just a tiny bit, just to kind of cheat that. I'd love to give it a little bit of stretch, twist and stretch. I often do that as well, like say coming back up here. I might just nudge it back. I'm just using the Alt and one of the arrow keys just there. And it's just, our spines obviously don't stretch, but the way they bend so much, it kind of feels like they do. So adding a little bit of that can kind of help it from feeling too rigid. Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Like, what time we have 3 nearly. So that's probably about all I'm going to have time for today. I'm going to come back to this probably next stream. I might be able to do one tomorrow. We'll see how I am fixed at work and that kind of stuff. At the moment, these are quite spontaneous because I'm just kind of getting used to streaming and the whole process. So I can't guarantee a regular time yet. But as I settle into it and get things working, I'll try and organize it a little bit better and maybe make. I'm still getting used to it as well, like how much I should spend animating, how much I should spend asking somebody's questions, answering somebody's questions. I want to keep it interesting for everybody watching, so I'm going to try and balance that out, not spend too much time on one person's questions. And also part of this as well is I just want to animate my own shot. Like this to me is it's fun and it's practice, and I just thought streaming it and explaining as I'm going along might be useful and interesting for people, and it also gives me kind of motivation to keep working on them, and it also kind of helps me. It's a weird thing as well, just talking stuff out and telling you why I'm doing things. It's kind of clarifying it for me as well. So I'm going to just hide the reference, and I'm going to hide this. This is a great little tool, actually, Epic Pen it's called. I use it all the time for writing on the screen. I also use my own ghost tool, which is pretty handy for I just wanted you to go, quit. I use my ghost tool as well for ghosting the character and that kind of stuff. But this guy's fairly high res, so I don't use it a whole lot on him. I have actual proxy mesh in there as well that I use sometimes. So let's have a quick look at it again, just going to hide the controls and just to kind of get a bit of a sense of where we're going. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I feel like the next pass I might do is I might start animating some of the accessories and maybe detailing out the fingers or just kind of the smaller details. I'm fairly happy with the overall stuff. You can always keep polishing, and I think with tests like this, it's good to polish up to a certain point, but it's also good to kind of finish them, keep moving forward. I have another idea for another one I want to do already. I've got some really cool reference I found the other day. So I want to, just kind of, part of it as well is not getting too precious with your work, just doing stuff. It's kind of like that old thing about, everybody's got 10,000 bad drawings in them. You need to keep doing them, and it's very hard sometimes to just, keep going with stuff. But I feel like it's actually, you learn more, I feel, sometimes from just continually doing new shots. Obviously you don't want to have them, sloppy, but sometimes that last 10% of polish, it's good to do it, but it can take ages, and sometimes you don't get a huge amount of learning from it. So I think generally as well, I've noticed that people tend to react pretty well to a shot that's just energetic and has good energy to it and has nice timing, even if the spacing and polish isn't perfect. Whereas if you have something that's super polished and clean but is lacking a bit of life, people don't like it as much. I feel people tend to err more on the side of it being interesting and fun. So I think that's always something to keep in mind, that you can go down a road of noodling stuff in the graph editor forever and without making a huge improvement to the overall shot. That's just my personal opinion, but that's something I tend to notice. So yeah, there's some spots in here where it can be cleaned up a little bit. But I feel like in the next session I do, I'll do some. I'll start bringing back his accessories. This stuff, maybe not the weapons yet, but some of them I might even hide. Oh, look, that Miles being a bit funny there. It's not actually updating them. That's kind of cool. He kind of steps into his gear, and that's probably just something that the GPU cache or something is just messing up a bit there. I need to probably just restart mine. Will probably sort that out. But I might even hide some of them because, like, see his little grenade or whatever it is there, and his that's kind of in the way of his hands. I don't really want to animate his hands differently. I kind of like where they are, so I might end up hiding that stuff. But definitely his belt and his bullet belt, that kind of stuff. It's really nice to show that kind of jiggling around. I'm definitely going to animate that. So I'll probably do that in the next pass, and I'll hopefully see you guys then. So please subscribe, and if you have any comments or questions, just look out for me on Vimeo, just Vimeo Brian Horgan, or on Facebook. Just give me a shout, and I hope people found it interesting, and let me know if there's any particular stuff you're having difficulty with, or you'd like me to kind of discuss a bit more. Cheers, and thanks for watching.